Hi, my name is Chris Green. I'm the marketing director for a company called Elonex. Elonex specialises in display solutions, screens by roadsides, screens in corporations, in receptions, screens anywhere that you'd want to put a screen. And with screens, the most important aspect of delivering a message is content. Content is probably still the most important aspect of communication in the advertising world these days. And that's because content is really what drives engagement with the viewer, whether they be in a store, which is as a customer wanting to know about a shirt or a pair of jeans, to an online channel, which is displaying different shoes, or a music channel where they're trying to get you to buy a download, or anything where there's an interaction between the broadcaster and the person who is absorbing all of the information. But content's been something that's been really, really important from days gone by. In the old days, when I was born in the 60s, things like, for example, in those kind of early days of television, there were very limited numbers of channels available where you could get information. So, the internet was not invented. TV was very, very minimal, in so much as at the time it was just black and white, and it was moving into colour. And content was very much controlled by the corporations that produced it. And we used to absorb what we were told and never question really what it was telling us. It was kind of a one-way channel. But that's changed completely these days. In this day and age, we have now got multiple channels where you're talking and receiving information from mobile phones, from screens by the roadside, from television, from tablets, from internet cafes, going out for a drink with your mates and seeing content on a screen in a bar, in a club, anything really, where you've got an opportunity for somebody who wants to get a message over to an audience that either wants to absorb that message or is taking it in peripherally in their subconscious when they're actually doing other things. But today, what we've got is we've got so many different ways to put content in front of a viewer. YouTube, anything that's online. It's all about getting that information across for the brand that wants to deliver a message to a consumer or a purchaser of some type. The interesting thing to think about when we talk about content is its relevance. In the old days, with limited channels, as I just alluded to a little earlier, the content was very generic. So it'd be a message that was deliberately kept generic to try and reach as broad an audience as it possibly could. So if your message was going out on TV and it was to try and sell a specific product, they would try and position that product to be accepted, the features and benefits to be accepted amongst a broad group of individuals. But in today's marketplace and in today's industries, we've got segmentation where we are able to finely define who the audience is going to be, and we tailor our messages in accordance with the characteristics of that audience. So that could be age, could be social class, it could be distinct interests, like for example in music specifically, where we're targeting different kinds of genres of music to different audience types. The thing there is that what you've got is you've got a channel that's able to deliver a very defined message. So take for example trying to sell a product to an audience in a shopping mall. Well, shopping mall owners know that in their shopping mall, between the early hours of them opening in the morning at 9:30 through to about 3 o'clock, the predominant audience during the week is probably more likely to be female and is more likely to be a woman who has a young family. So she could be in the shopping mall to shop while she's with her children, or she could be in the shopping mall to actually go to an event that would entertain the kids. But that audience profile changes from about 3 o'clock when, for example, schools finish and young adults and young kids are actually in shopping malls between sort of 3:30 and 6 o'clock. And then that changes again after 6, when you've got sort of people who are finishing work, a more mature audience who may be popping into a shopping mall to pick something up. That's a perfect example of how audience profiles change. Then take the weekend, for example. The weekends are more focused on, in a shopping mall, for example, a family audience. So you might have mum, dad, 2.2 kids in a shopping mall shopping for certain things. And again, that the brands know that these audience profiles, these audience mixes change between these times. So what they do is they use dynamic media, which screens are, to create different messages at different times in the day. What's developing now on the sort of the social media side as well is that messages can be very highly targeted at very defined user groups. So again, using social media, messaging and content is very targeted towards an individual or a certain type of person. So for example, if you've got someone who is following a specific music artist, then a message can be delivered on Twitter to a very defined audience with a very defined underlying message about their interests and the things that they like about that artist. It's a great way to finely tune and sell products and services and keep it really defined to a specific type of person with a specific type of interest. These audiences, though, have to be communicated with on a relevance basis. So in this day and age, with social media, which is a great medium, but can also be something that puts the fear of God into brands if they've got their message wrong, and the social media platforms are reporting back how things are incorrect, or they've targeted incorrectly, or if they've got a product and they've got a problem with the product, it's really easy very quickly for a market to understand what that product's failure is by social media, because as soon as someone experiences something negative about something, they can immediately hit the market with their negative comments, and that can cascade really quickly. So social media is a great platform to be able to deliver positive, quick, engaged messages that can be accepted by a certain type and a specific type of individual. But equally, it can be a real challenge to physically create a negative impact on a product, and that's what marketers are extremely afraid of with social media. On TV as well now, we've seen a massive change in the way in which content's delivered. So we're not watching television the way that we used to watch television anymore. We are choosing to record the programs that interest us, and with these intelligent recording devices like the Sky Q box that's currently just come out, we can bypass adverts, and now we can actually define what it is we want to watch. We can even, if we forget, can record it from our tablet or our mobile phone via an app, and that recording can take place. It can remove any advert content. It can just be very closed in and specific to wanting to watch that program. With catch-up TV as well now, we can get binge viewing, which has never been something we could do in the past. So if you want to watch Game of Thrones and you've missed 3 or 4 episodes, now you can physically catch up in sequence the episodes that you're specifically interested in. See, in sort of the older days, that wasn't possible. You had sort of like the clunky video recorder. Before that, if you missed it, you never saw it again. And now what you've got is catch-up TV, you've got BBC iPlayer, you've got Radio iPlayer. Just an amazing arrangement of different mediums in which you can absorb as much content as you wish. And content just plays such a huge part in everybody's lives. So, for example, if you're going on a long journey now, it's not uncommon for you to actually download a specific content piece that you are going to watch on your tablet or on your PC or on your laptop when you're actually traveling, because you know it's there, you know it's available, it's easy to access. It's extremely cheap. Content is so cheap these days in terms of you can become a member of Netflix, for example, for $4.99 a month, and you've got unlimited access to content. And it's that kind of content that's driving a change in the way that the television broadcasters work now. So companies like Amazon and Netflix are able to commission their own TV programs because they know that they've got a highly defined subscriber audience that they can physically channel these programs towards, and they can define those specifics of that, of somebody watching one particular program, and say with quite a lot of accuracy that this other type of program would be of equal interest to them, because they know what these viewers view, and they know what they're interested in. So it's a really defined platform of content being the central point of what entertains us, what informs us. It's really important to remember as well that in years gone by, we were kind of content was played at us. That doesn't happen anymore. We choose to absorb and we choose to watch the content that's available because we know where to go to get it, and we can be very defined about the content that we want to watch, and we can be very dismissive about the content that we don't want to watch. So, and no more do you have to sort of sit in a room and watch something that everybody else is watching because it's just there and scheduled on the TV. You can now go to your room, you can open your laptop, you can physically absorb the content that interests you most. It's just an amazing change in the way in which content now drives our lives. And, you know, it's kind of defined how we live our lives. In years gone by, what we would do is we would not go out on a Friday night if there was a program that we wanted to watch between 8 and 9 p.m. Because if we did go out, we would miss it and there'd be no way to actually see that program. Now we don't have to worry about that, as I touched on before. There are so many different ways in which that content can be recorded, can be accessed, can be replayed. I mean, that in its own right is a huge, huge negative, because for some people, once they're caught on camera doing something wrong, then they physically can get it played over and over and over again on the internet. You know, if you want to see something that's controversial, you know that if you put into Google Justin Bieber punches the lights out of somebody at a concert, you can physically see that within the touch of a button. It's an amazing, amazing thing, but it is just so defined, and so it almost like changes people's lives, because it has such a huge impact on everybody and everything. Content is something that, if you're being involved in direct marketing or you want a career in television, is central to everything that you've got to consider. Every time a website's designed and produced, the audience is segmented, the marketers look at physically the kind of people that they're going to be talking to, and they break down the copy into these key areas. So now when you visit a website, it can actually send you down a certain channel, so it can define exactly what you want to hear, what you want to see, how you want to respond, and you take that journey with the brand. But on that physical website, there might be 7 or 8 journeys that you could possibly take based on your interests and based on how you view your relationship with that brand. And that's what the brands do these days. The brands spend huge amounts of money on collecting data and using data to analyze the behavioral patterns of all of their customers, and are able to then physically define the channel you take, define the message that you're going to hear, define how that brand is going to have a relationship with you, and basically almost becomes a one-to-one relationship. You're not just a number in a larger number. You are physically having a one-to-one relationship with that brand, and that's what the brands are clearly focused on doing in today's marketing arenas, is to be able to make you feel like you are part of that brand, and that brand is part of you. It's a complete change to, as I said, the generic, broad brush way in which brands used to engage with consumers years and years ago. Web and content and all these channels have changed the face of marketing forever. It's never going to be the same again. It really is going to be even more and more personal as the years go by, and you will choose much more defined content than you've ever chosen before, to a point where eventually, as you do now, you will be able to dip in and out of it using apps and your smartphones, and you'll be able to pause content and come back to it, and you can even in the future be able to change the relevancy of content and actually physically change the way it interacts with you. Content is the key to how we live our lives today. It influences in so many different ways, in the choices that we make, in the foods that we eat, It's an amazing subject and something that is still probably at the forefront of every brand's mind when they're thinking about their latest on the new campaigns, the new audiences, the new products. Content is central to everything and is something that will be so now and forevermore.